dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. How are you this morning? On a particularly interesting morning, it is Blue Monday, and sorry about the slightly low-res appearance of that, but I don't suppose it matters anyway. There'll be just the exceptional few who understand that equation, which is how we arrive at this being the most depressing day of the year by that calculation. Which has been debunked, I understand, and is the source of some controversy, as you might expect. Oh, hold on a minute. The on-air light is not on, giving a very poor signal. Wait a minute. Can I do this without destroying the studio? That, my friends, is very important to have on in the background. So thank you for bearing with there. Yeah, Blue Monday. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on because we have, of course, our life coach and former practicing psychotherapist, James Holley, who joins us for every Monday for the Mindful Migration Monday. I imagine he'll have something to say about Mindful Migration Blue Monday this morning. If you have anything to say about that, do let me know as well. And I imagine Vitor will also have, Vitor Costa also joining us at around 9:30. We'll have something completely unpredictable and original to say about it as well. You know what he's like. So looking forward to seeing Vitor at around 9:30 this morning. And of course, James at 9, where I shall be prolonging. That makes it sound a little bit painful, doesn't it? This is some sort of endurance test, but we'll be continuing into our conversation. Oh, look, my goodness. We'll be continuing with our what do we say after we've said hello. We're having trouble streaming on LinkedIn. I don't know what that's about. Anyway, we'll have to leave that for now. Maybe we'll pop a short up on there later on. Did anyone here this morning normally tune in on LinkedIn and disappointed not to find us there and now tuned in on YouTube? Do let us know. What's your favorite platform? I think it mainly for people is YouTube. Anyway, we'll come back to our conversation, our growing conversation. The elephant in the room, of course, which is not speaking Portuguese when you live in Portugal. And we'll be doing our best to help with that a little bit later on. We've got a lovely smattering of Gumpers with us already this morning on this Blue Monday. Sarah Yemen's in. Smoky Treats. Smoky Treats. I think I know who you are. It's always difficult when people use nom de plumes or nom de YouTubes. Can you just confirm who you are to me? Who are you to me? That would be great. And thank you for your offer to come and join us on the show this morning. It's quite useful. Oh, it's David, of course. Yeah, good morning, David. I thought it might be one of our, I say one of our trolls. I think we've only got one who appears with different pseudonyms. And it's the same person. Must have got bored with their last and recent smattering of it's more of a splattering than a smattering with the trolls. That they've seemed to have disappeared for the time being. Anyway, denying them and us the sport of trolling on the GMP. Morning to you, Joao Denort as well. Thank you for your recent correspondence, Gary. Very interesting, Gary. This is something I would like to. Sorry, it wasn't Gary. It was Paul. I do beg your pardon. Got you mixed up with I think just across the border actually from you in Wellington in Somerset. Apparently Wellington in Somerset is twinned with Torres Vedras, and Gary, of course, you're in Wales, aren't you? Anyone else here have the town that they come from? Do you have a Portuguese twin for your town of origin, where you used to come from, or for that matter, where you are here in Portugal? Is it twinned with anywhere that you could share with us this morning. Here's the picture that came in from Paul this morning. Wellington in bloom. I've driven through here and seen that sign. And I've actually, funny enough, in Wellington in bloom, around there somewhere, I have bought dahlias, I think, by the roadside. It is a beautiful Somerset town. And as you can see there, it's twinned not only with Lillebonne in France and Immenstadt in Germany, it is also, I don't know why I said that like Jeremy Clarkson. It's also twinned with Torres Vedras in Portugal. How about that? So any more of that, I heartily welcome and would like to find out more. And I need to find out where San Martino is twinned with, if anywhere. And maybe there's something I can do about that. I might like to twin it with, if I don't know how these things work. I mean, I always was a little bit cynical. It was local politicians having a bit of a jolly, toing and froing to various European. If you take, for example, Wellington, it will be the Wellington councillors popping over to France from time to time, and Germany, and to Portugal by the look of it, and receiving people from those places. Nothing wrong with that, as long as they get their jobs done as well. And talking of politicians, let's get this sorted out this morning as well. In the half hour of the Gumper gathering this morning, before we have James join us at 9 and Vitor join us at 9:30. Over at GMP VIP, there are some instructions for people who would like to, from the US, actually, I was going to say who'd like to vote from here in their home elections. I'm very welcome to any other elections, 40 of which I think are taking place around the world in 2024. What we have here at GMP VIP, thank you to various community members for bringing this to my attention. So we've got, TIG, of course, all over it with voting in the UK. Let me go through these for you. BritishInEurope.org. Apparently, the deadline is tomorrow to register to vote. Have you lived abroad for more than 15 years? Find your documents so you can register on Tuesday, the 16th. And for Americans, you can use favap.gov. Federal Voting Assistance Program. Americans can vote wherever they are. And that's lovely. I do love the American ethic. It looks like a classic from an advertising agency in the United States. Like that a lot, the graphics on that. If you're a US voter and you want to take part in the US election this year, you can do that with some help from the Federal Voting Assistance Program. Oh, and look, there's Homer Simpson going to vote. Moment. Yes. So if that's what you want to do, that's how to do it right there. Should we stay over there at GMP for a moment, see what's going on? We've got Antonio Barbosa's wine recommendation of the week, which will be from the Setúbal Peninsula there. How about that, Sarah Yemen? Castellão grapes, 85%, Aragonés, 10%, and Syrah grapes, 5% in that brew there. Ruby color with violet reflections. And I won't read the whole thing. You can read that for yourself if that's your thing. That bottle's already open. There's a dribble of red wine down the label there, Antonio. And thank you very much for that recommendation. Keep them coming. Also over there, we've got a kind of court report. Thank you, Antonio Ferreira, for this. Antonio F. Superb. Like a court report, criminal facts in Portugal. And what I've asked Antonio to do, as well as curating the Portuguese sayings of the day. How many have we got on there now? We have got 200, we nearly got 300 comments on that. Superb work. T-Duck started that off. Antonio F ran with it. And not only is he doing that for us, the Portuguese saying of the day, he's also got us criminal facts in Portugal, which is a bit of a court report on what's going on in Portugal when it comes to crime. Not a lot, thankfully. A little bit, but not a lot, which is something that a couple of us were chatting about. Long may it stay that way here in Portugal. No surprise here, Portugal top destination to move to in 2024. That's a CNN report. I haven't even looked into that myself, but CNN.com travel have put Portugal number one by the sound of it. Tough to beat for its affordability, quality of life, year-round mild weather, and high-quality healthcare system. Easy times for journalists, right? And well done, Portugal, as well. The full video of me and Philomena singing from last Friday, the pum 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 pum. I won't do the whole thing. Oh, and a beautiful house in the Algarve that I want to show you if we've got time this morning. That's a beauty. And also I've added to Picture Perfect Portugal Now, we've got loads of lovely pictures here that have been sent in by Gumpers, and some yet to be claimed. One of them is actually of Sweden, but that's because it's Anna, usually from the Algarve in Sweden, and those Swedish ladies going swimming that cold morning last week. I think I'm going to come back to those later on and play them, because I've got a beautiful song to play at the end of the show today from Cheryl Bliss. I think have we spoken to Michael? We've played some of Michael's music, husband of Cheryl. A musical household. Cheryl's got a new single out, which is called January Moon, which I am keen to play for you at the end of the show. Nice way to finish Blue Moon Day with Cheryl Bliss's new tune, January Moon. We've got a couple of videos. I should get on with it. Actually, I should say a few hellos and then get on with the videos, because guess who's back in Portugal from Wales? Yes, you'll see one of his 2-minute tasters, 2-minute taster in a little while. Deagle's in. Bon dia, Carl and Gumpers from a cold Belfast at present. -1, Deagle. It's very mild here. That's amazing. It's actually 15 degrees. It's very wet and soggy outside. It's been peeing down, continuing to drizzle out there by the look of it this morning, but 15 degrees. Yesterday afternoon, we went out and I took the whole family to the Man Cave Laundrette to discover more delights there and some incredible gaming machines in there, and get to know the owner and chef a little better. What a great bloke he is. Doing our washing as a family activity yesterday. That was great fun. But as I stepped out of the house, it was noticeably warmer. There was like a Mistral breeze. So warmer outside than in again, I think, here. It certainly feels like that, yeah, because the concrete just attracts over the weeks and months of the cold weather. These concrete buildings get a little bit damp and cold, don't they? And you step outside, it's much warmer. So weird, but actually so nice. And that's why the Portuguese go out, I think, rather than stay in. So -1 at the moment in Belfast, warming up to 3 degrees. Light snow, possibly. Cold week ahead. We'll watch later as hospital appointment this morning. Well, good luck with that. Thank you for your suggestion there that everybody hits the like button. Deagle. Coach Turner's in as well. We'll see him on Friday in person, where we'll celebrate once more we'll have a look back. We'll review the whole God Squad program with you on Friday, if we may, Coach Turner. Bom dia, Gumpers, e bem-vindo a uma nova semana. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. We had a lovely time with friends near Bristol on the bank of the Severn Estuary. Beautiful location, yes. Did you get the old Severn Boar running in from the sea there? It can be quite muddy, can't it? But the Severn Estuary is amazing. Were you anywhere near Severn Beach? Strangely named Severn Beach, because it ain't much of a beach, quite honestly, but it's a fascinating place. Holiday camp there back in the day. God Squad tip of the day, then. Some new research has just been published showing that starting an exercise program is as much a mental challenge as physical. Hell yeah. I suspect we could have all told them that for free. Yeah, but some of these academics, they've got to keep themselves, got to pay their mortgages somehow, haven't they, Coach Turner? And there's probably a cereal bar behind it or something like that, isn't there? Funnily enough, Kellogg's have found out, or whatever. However, it reminded me one of the reasons. In fact, Blue Monday is another PR puff. I think it's a bit of fun. I think it's quite an interesting thing to look at sociologically, but it is a load of old cobblers, like so many of these research programs. And I think you're absolutely right. It reminds me of Basil Fawlty, doesn't it? Does he say something to Sybil, something like, "Here she is on Mastermind, her specialist subject stating the bleeding obvious"? Well, we get that a lot, don't we, with these academic research projects as well. But anyway, yeah, fair play, got to pay their mortgages. However, it reminded me of one of the reasons I exercise, and that is to help my coaching. I get a real buzz from helping others improve their running, and that in turn encourages me. Yes, it's good to teach something, isn't it? When you teach something, you demonstrate your own grasp of it, and you set yourself up as well, don't you? Have something to live up to, which I think is useful as well. Perhaps you can help a friend to start maybe encouraging each other. Just go for a walk together and see, see where that takes you. Where do you want to go? Don't know. Let's just start walking, shall we? How exciting is that? James what? James what? Didn't he invent a steam engine? Bom dia, Gumpers. Feliz segunda a todos. Como foi o vosso fim de semana? We're all very well talking Portuguese there. Come and have a go if you think you're good enough at around 9 o'clock this morning, James. A mindful dad joke. So what is a good meditator? The one who meditates. Alan Locos. Very good. I thought he was the owner of the supermarket chain, but that would be Alan Low Cost. This is Alan Low Cost, who sounds like a spiritual kind of guy. And thank you for the accompanying visual dad joke, the visual, spiritual, or mindful dad joke. Buddhist monk there, opening a note, not thinking of you. Very good. Now, what does it say? Am I missing something by not showing you all of that? Let's take everything off the screen except, oh, it's a Zen birthday card. Not thinking of you. Very good. Thank you for that. Keep those coming. And I sent a message to James saying, who is this cartoonist? Because I like their work a lot. They seem to have this sort of mindful, spiritual aspect to their work, firmly with a tongue in their cheek, which is always good, isn't it? Not good to take each other, not good. It's definitely not good to take each other too seriously, but definitely good not to take ourselves too seriously. Thank you, James, very much indeed. And a mindful moment then. Breathe out if you need to. Mindful, and don't forget to breathe back in again, of course. Dear sir, I was very disappointed to receive the instructions on the Good Morning Portugal show to breathe out, but no instruction to breathe back in again, resulting in me ending up in casualty. Mindful moment. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. What a lovely turn of phrase that is. Unexpected in common hours. Is that like a surprise, basically, a Victorian way of saying surprise? If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Beautiful. Wait, hola, todo, not todos. What's going on there? Oh, that's right. That was correcting an earlier missive from Smoky Tree. It's good to see you here, David. How are you? Tudo bem? Como estás? Hola todos from you earlier on. And that was Henry David Thorough who gave us that mindful moment this morning. That last part, he will meet with a success. It should be he may or may not with a success. Oh, look, he's here. He's nitpicking already. He's only just come back to the show and he's nitpicking Henry David Thoreau. Are you saying it should say that, or should it say that? Has James got the original quote wrong, or is that your updated correction? Because can you imagine if we apply that level of cynicism to all the great works of literature and inspiration? And that, maybe to not hurt people's feelings, there should be disclaimers on all Bible sayings, aphorisms, words of wisdom. This may not actually be true to save you any hurt in the future. Possibly. Not sure what you're suggesting there, David. Is that your amendment to Thoreau, or did James quote that incorrectly? Rude awakening. Who doesn't mind a rude awakening first thing in the morning? 4 a.m. I had a bit of I found it difficult to get to sleep, which is unusual. Not difficult. I went with the flow. I just lay there and enjoyed the fact that I had a bed, for one thing, and I was warm. And I found it interesting that I couldn't sleep in the usual way, head hitting the pillow. 4 a.m. for you this morning, Doug. A couple walked. What? Oh, my goodness. Were you booked into a swingers hotel maybe in Villamora? You might have to just be a little bit more careful, or lock the door, alternatively. Or was it the cleaners getting in early? Same thing happened to me. Well, your reputation may precede you, Dougie. Same thing happened to me and Mrs. H when we stayed at a hotel in Bordeaux. You're known across Europe, perhaps. North Wales and District Swingers Association. Well, yeah, exactly. What is going on? And what did they say when they saw the great Douglas Hughes lying there in the bed that they thought was theirs? Here's a quote. Mistakes are made. Everything else just happens. Who said that? Oh, bringing a cynical tone, I would say. You might call it realistic, Smokey, this morning. Mistakes are made. Everything else just happens. Oh, my goodness. That doesn't make me feel good, reading that. Not that you have any responsibility at all to make me feel good, Smo. That is entirely my my responsibility. But I would it'd be quite a stretch to call that inspiration this morning. What can we call those? I guess they're not a mindful moment. A nihilistic niche, we could call those, couldn't we? Do you want me on your show this morning? I have a camera. Well, I think you're going to have to do a bit better than mistakes are made. Everything else just happens. And who did say that? That sounds a bit like Bill. What's his name? The great. It sounds like a comedian, doesn't it? It sounds like a comedian who was really funny on stage and miserable as hell in their private life? Not sure. Bon dia all from Gary with a happy Blue Monday. That's good. We're getting your feedback about Blue Monday and how it's affecting you. There is an equation to it. If you're a mathematician, you too can debunk this like Ben Goldacre did, apparently. Ben Goldacre took it upon himself to take that apart. But anything that upsets him is fine by me. Did I just say that? Okay. Where were we? We were within nihilism. Do you say nihilism or nihilism niche there? He doesn't have anything in particular to talk about. That's not going to make a very good conversation. But then some might say a lot of my conversations are like that. Bon dia, Gumbers, from a frozen Grand Union Canal. Not a euphemism. Good morning to you, Jackie. No depression here, thank you very much. Got life in Portugal to look forward to. Nice one, Jackie. Let us know when you get here. Let's have a coffee or something a little stiffer. Bon dia to Pam as well, and João de Norte. Bon dia, alegria a todos. And my village, Nevin, is twinned with Puerto Madryn in Patagonia. Very good. Ericeira, Portugal, and Santa Cruz should be sister cities. Santa Cruz in California, because I imagine there's a few Santa Cruzes in America. They should be sister cities, but to my knowledge are not. Can you imagine how many trips back and forth, probably paid for by the local governments, you could enjoy if you initiated that, James? Best medium-sized town in the southwest. Seems a bit contrived. Is that what he said on that? What's that then? Is that the one? Is that the picture I just showed of Wellington? Best medium-sized town in the southwest. Yes, that is like that is damned by faint praise almost, isn't it? How many categories were there in that competition? Thanks for spotting that, Joe. That's hilarious. But they've won it a few years. Oh no, that is for in bloom, not just generally speaking. That's for that. There is something. Villages in bloom, or obviously best medium-sized towns in the southwest in bloom. That is to do with its floral output, not just its general. And not just his general performance there. Wow, that's brilliant. Okay, referring to that Wellington in Bloom city sign. Yes, perhaps. Maybe everyone got a prize. Maybe it was an early woke competition where they had a category for everyone so that nobody would lose, perhaps. I would put a comma in there wherever they are. Otherwise, I don't think the sentence makes any sense. What now? Wherever they are. Is that to do with the earlier pithy quote? Mistakes are made. Everything else just happens. Who said that? Wherever they are. I think I'm making a mess of it now, David. You might have to just put that all together in one message there to help with my confusion. Morning, Squire. Bon dia todos from the Squire of the Shires. Does your British town or village have a Portuguese twin, Squire? Let us know. And if it doesn't, I'm suggesting we could all get together, couldn't we? If our local councils will pay for the trip. How about that? Antonio F. Bon dia todos. How are you? This is the year of the political gravy train, after all, isn't it? I saw a fantastic cartoon of the Camerons, Samantha Cameron, saying to David, they're in a railway station to set the scene. Which train do we get on? I can't see which train we need to get on. Darling, it's the one with gravy written on the side of it. How did he get that job? According to Wikipedia, there are no towns in Wales that are twinned with any in Portugal. This has to stop, or this has to start. Weird. Gary, let's get that started, shall we? Oh, James is here and I haven't played the 2 videos. Quick, Pam, we're hoping for a firewood delivery today. That's definitely a euphemism. Baddy, hola, bon dia from erupting yet again Iceland. Yeah, I saw that. We're safe, no worries. Well, keep us in touch with your safety status, please, Baddy. I did hear about that on the news. Hola, soggy over here in Madeira, says Aviva. Good morning to you, Aviva. Paul Richards, greetings from the Algarve. Yesterday, 20 degrees and sunny. It was amazing, wasn't it, in the Algarve I saw? It was really mild here as well. Still is this morning. Today, cloudy, but still warm. Maybe rain later in the week. However, it is January. Have you been banned from taking as many showers as you normally would, Paul? Did I read about that? Not about you personally. Helping others in chat club keeps me motivated to improve my Portuguese. I need help with motivation to exercise, though. All I've got is the prodigy. Excellent. Well, that's a good start. Sounds like Dougie experienced something unexpected in common hours. Well, hey! True. Jacqueline, good morning to you. Good morning from Gaelish. Have an excellent week. Cheers, Jackie. Good to see you here. We'll come back to more comments later because, yes, I said, guess who's in town? Here he is. Let's play his video. And we'll also play a beautiful video put together from images sent to me by Madeira in Madeira. So we'll come back to that. This one first. Yes, who's here?
Good morning, Portugal, and it's a jolly fine morning right here in the Algarve. Time for one of our 2-minute tasters.
Warm day, everyone. Yeah, famously, this place is quite often referred to as the end of the world. Cape St. Vincent, near Zagreb, right here on the Algarve. It's the middle of January. It's 23 degrees. I've been here in the middle of June when it's blowing an absolute howling gale, but today, not a breath of wind, loads of people, and it's warm. How bizarre is that? Oh, if you're going to get that close to the edge, you need to be sure-footed. Wow. That is technically called a sheer drop. And it's a long, long way to Tipperary. For those of you who haven't actually been here to Cape St. Vincent, it's a little bit like Cabo de Roca. But these cliffs are just sheer and phenomenal and, in my opinion, quite scary. The lighthouse is currently closed to visitors, but there's plenty to see here without actually going inside the complex. Really rather pretty. I think you can just imagine Portuguese explorers from yesteryear standing on the precipice of these enormous cliffs and gazing toward what is today a rather hazy-looking horizon and wondering, well, I wonder what lies beyond. Maybe all those Portuguese exploring traits were honed in places just like this. I can imagine that. And finally, as they used to say on the news, here's some photographs of Porto Baleira, Zagreb. How beautiful is this?
Excellent work, Doug. Excellent work there. And yes, thank you for the lovely photographs at the end. And who doesn't like a precipice first thing in the morning? Let's go now to Madeira, which will mean a big entry for James when he joins us. And he loves a big entry first thing in the morning. Here we go. Thank you to Tony for this. fireworks on your opening. Hola,
Bom dia!
hola, bom dia. Tudo bem?
Sim, muito bem, obrigado. E tu?
Okay, call in the elephant in the room. O que tu faz?
O que tu faz?
O que tu faz?
I just, oh, that's right. You just want me to read what's there. Okay.
Well, no, you can say something else if you wish, but I just gave you a serving suggestion.
Okay, I will add something, I think.
Okay.
Não muito. Eu fui ao mercado. What was it? See. I have to, well, I don't have to. I know how to say it in present tense. I haven't worked out my past tense yet, and you're asking me questions in the past.
It's okay.
So,
No, go with what you've got, as if like. So I'm gonna say, hoje está Segunda Azul. Tem
Claro.
doentes ou ajuda os doentes com Segunda Azul, doutor.
And I'm going to say, está frio hoje.
Well, that's good enough.
When all else fails, talk about the weather.
We gave it. That's so much better than this time last year, James. So I think we can give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back.
Yes, and what I realized today when I saw the question, because in full transparency, I had to translate because I didn't know what you were asking me.
Right.
But if we do what I do to inspire myself around language, I say, how much English could I speak when I was 2 years old?
Right.
Because I've been here 2 years, and you've been here, what, 6 years? So it's like a 2-year-old talking to a 6-year-old, essentially.
A lot of people have said that.
If you break it down, that's more or less what it is. And 2-year-olds are still in the present, usually, still trying to get a hold of the vocabulary. I realize I need a lot more verbs. In my reading, I understand a lot of the sentences, but I have no idea what the actions are. What are they doing? It's like, I don't know. I recognize yesterday, today, I need da 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 da, but I don't say, whoa, for what? What is it they're trying to do? So I'm still working on it, and I say that to be encouraging to those people who are still working on it. I'm 2 years in and still feel like a 2-year-old. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm right on schedule then.
Yep.
The tendency is to say, oh, I'm so slow. What's wrong with me? I'm not far enough along. It's like,
no, we are definitely not beating ourselves up here. Definitely not, are we? We're giving ourselves, it's really good advice here, and a correction from Antonio F as well. But for good advice from Pam to continue your conversation in Portuguese. Just think what you want to say in Portuguese, but give it a go in Portuguese. Just think what you want to say in English, but give it a go in Portuguese. Yes. Absolutely. So we make a terrible mess sometimes, and we have a go. And I did. And apparently, o que tu fez is wrong. You can use o que fizeste ontem, hoje, or o que tens feito, which is great. So I'll change that.
That's the question I asked last Friday. O que tens feito?
It is, isn't it? And I was trying to mix it up, and I messed it up. But that's okay. We will sort that out. We'll remake that slide for the benefit of others. O que tens feito depends being informal or more formal. Tony Bryant's here with a massive message. Is this about Portuguese? No, I taught kindergarten in Hong Kong for over 10 years. Each student is there for 3 years. Every Monday morning, I used to get on the school PA and sing the Monday song. Oh, should we give this a go? I don't know what's the tune. And I can imagine the Portuguese. Were you accompanying yourself on the ukulele there, Portuguese? So the Monday song goes like this. Monday, Monday. I'm so happy it's Monday, Monday, Monday. I'm so happy it's Monday. Move, move, move your body. Monday, M-O-N-D-A-Y. Monday, today is Monday. I think we definitely need a tune. Then in each class, I'd have the children tell me that it's Happy Monday. My idea is, and I'll never know if it worked, that for the whole of their lives, and he hasn't done the next bit of the comment yet. Yes,
they'll sing that song on Monday when they wake up in the morning.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mrs. M's just come in. That's why I just called her Santa. Let me get this out of the way. She's looking very festive and beautiful, isn't she? Glowing red there.
Put some red on.
You look great. Don't get me wrong. No, don't get me wrong. Look, you got thumbs up.
So what else is new? That's all I have to say.
Yeah, exactly. At least you come more than once a year. Well, anyway, no, let's not go. Yes, I will have a coffee. Thank you very much for that. Oof, blimey, I'm redder than your outfit now. Right,
Yeah,
where
you gotta watch the compliments when you say you look really nice today.
That's what I meant to say.
It's like every other day I don't. What's the matter with me?
Exactly. It's like, oh, okay. Yes, I'll just take a coffee. Right. No, where were we? So we got a correction from Antonio. Thank you, Antonio. Keep them coming. And James is all over this.
Yeah, and the translation of that is really, what have you been up to?
Yes.
So it is that is kind of informal, but he was talking about the form of tying being formal and tines being familiar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got that, Antonio. I will change it accordingly, and we will keep going. Just like Tony did with the students there. Reinforcement. We'll have a little. We'll take it a step further each week, and today is Segunda Azul. If a translation is needed to take that into the Portuguese, I'm not sure it's a condition the Portuguese necessarily suffer from. What did you make of this Blue Monday business, then, James? Yeah.
I was thinking of all kinds of ways to come up with, because then you follow that with something about, the best place to live. And it's like, I was saying, Good Morning Portugal has been voted the best morning program in the world.
I'll take it.
And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Did you know that? And then people started spreading it all over Facebook or whatever. And it's like, well, who said it?
Worry, mate,
James. James said it.
No, I'm going to take the segment out where you've just said that.
There you go.
That's going to be made into a short without the bit at the end. Let's see what happens.
So you're going to be a news correspondent then. You're just going to take all the context out of it.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
He said, what? Who said that? Oh, just James on the show. He said that.
Yes. And then I can publish an apology or a retraction later.
So this, I consider myself a spiritual person. I consider myself, I am very aware there are things that we don't know that are real. And so finding out that to me, that's the part of the process of science. So I also love having science to be able to back things up. So when someone says, we show that this particular Monday is statistically significant in terms of people feeling blue, I'm assuming that's what it means, or depressed or sad. It's like, well, I don't necessarily want to see the research. I'm not big on reading research. It's really boring. But
that's a quote. That's another one that's big in you.
Feel free. Yes. But I do listen to how it's, when people talk about the research that's been done in intelligent ways, people who do read research. I want to see the research on that. Basically, who did the study? How was it conducted? How do you determine? Did they do a worldwide survey, or at least a sampling worldwide of what happens on this particular Monday every year? I mean, that's a pretty massive study.
No, they did not. Let me put anyone out of their misery who is struggling with this. It was a PR company.
Of course.
Who came up with a way of selling more holidays. Funny that. Blue Monday is the name given to a day in January, typically the third Monday of the month. I think somebody mentioned it might have been last Monday, which was understandable. Said by a UK travel company, Sky Travel, to be the most depressing day of the year. The concept was first published in 2005 in a press release from the company, which claimed to have calculated date using an equation in inverted commas.
I can make up all kinds of equations, probably meaningless.
Why not? Let's have some fun. It takes into account weather conditions and thus only applies to the northern hemisphere. So you're not allowed to be miserable by logical reduction here in the southern hemisphere today. You've got your own day for that.
Or any place that it's sunny on a Monday in January.
Exactly. It really messes with the equation. Some have dismissed the idea as pseudoscience. Oh, my goodness. Including...
I wouldn't even go to pseudo or science. Just pseudo.
Just dismiss the idea. Ben Goldacre was all over it, Guardian columnist. Now, he loves to pee on chips whenever he gets the opportunity. And you started to go there in a funny sort of way. And here are the calculations. But I mean, let's not take it too seriously, because if you start taking it too seriously, it's kind of like, it takes all the fun out of it. And you know, I think people like Ben Goldacre sort of reveal themselves as like, oh my God, you can't say anything without this sort of race to the bottom. This kind of, you know, that's not true. That's not true. And the other pseudo thing, I think, is this idea that a lot of those debunkers and protectors of the truth think they're protecting other people as well, don't they? Well, this shouldn't be allowed in the public domain because it misleads those other people who aren't as clever as me and bright enough to think for themselves.
Well, that's the game now, is to confuse everybody about everything. Then nobody knows what's going on. I think that's an actual strategy.
Yeah, and isn't that great, though, that's a lovely, great big cosmic joke as well? Because you get back to where you started, don't you? If everyone's confused about everything, we can. That's like a Zen. That's the sound of one hand clapping, isn't it? Going back to and I loved your definition of spiritual, which if I were to quote you now as a news journalist, he said. Basically, you were talking
breaking news. James Holley said.
Yeah, let me just check. There are things that we don't know about. I think that's a beautiful. Is that about right? I think that's a beautiful.
Yeah, things we don't know that are real. I mean, just because we don't know it doesn't mean it's not there. Yeah.
Right. And I love that. And the idea of science working with that rather than against it, because that's what I find, that's what triggers me is this idea that there are things that are real that we don't know about. And there would appear to be scientific people who want to prove that that's not true, rather than say, well, that might be true. Should we find out together? And I'm thinking, which of those, it's a bit like, when you look at political people, who would you rather go for a drink with? It's like, which scientists would you rather hang out with? The ones who are just trying to disprove everything or take everything down with their so-called scientific analytical view and reduce everything to what they think of as rationality and logic. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be in the same room as that person for very long, let alone go for a drink.
Yeah, well, it's partially right. I mean, science is a curious methodology. It's about curiosity. It's about trying to figure stuff out. So they're not trying to prove anything wrong in the beginning. They say, hey, I observed this. I wonder why that happens. Let me go see if I can figure that out. I think it happens for this reason. From that point forward, they try to prove that wrong, because that's how they verify whether it's right or not. If you can prove it wrong, it's not right.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's not trying to prove everything wrong. It's just trying to prove my idea, my theory that it works this way. Try to prove that wrong. And if over countless, not countless, but repeated exercises, I can't disprove my idea, then my idea must be valid. Yeah. That's what I like about science. It's the one place where people aren't trying to prove themselves right. They're trying to prove themselves wrong.
Yes,
to determine whether they're right or not.
And interesting themselves or an idea. Because there's a part of that, isn't there, which if you've eliminated something, which I guess it also is another definition of spirituality, the negation of things, taking things out of the way such that the truth can be there, unobscured by anything else. But if you've ruled something out, that would suggest to me in the joy of science that you've moved forward. You haven't stepped backwards, if you see what I mean. And I always like to think of these people, like I was having a go at the people who were getting their mortgages paid by coming up with research projects when we were talking about the God Squad tip of the day. But I imagine a scientist going home and his wife perhaps saying to him, "How was your day today?" And he says, "Well, I managed to prove 10 people wrong." And at that point, imagine that's not the most fruit, unless his wife likes that sort of thing, and that's what she sort of fancied about him in the first place, that he's such a smart ass, he's always proving other people wrong. But I'm thinking that's probably not the most positive and delightful atmosphere to be in. A delightful atmosphere might be, I had these ideas and I've proved several of them wrong, and I feel like I'm closer to an unveiling of the truth or what might be true about this. I'm so excited. We're so much closer, rather than, I just
when you can get
Yeah.
ego out of the way. And there have been some big ego battles in science. You know,
bet.
one scientist trying to prove that his idea was the right one and not the other one, and so they're disproving each other. It's like, well, that's to me not all that constructive. I guess at some point you may be able to rule things out or discover that something does actually work the way you think it doesn't. I don't know, but I in my imagination, I have the scientist who's dedicated to science, who's dedicated to the methodology, and whose intention is figure out what the hell is right.
Yes.
And if someone proved that I'm wrong, I'm excited about that, because now we can move another direction and see what's right.
Which
something along that line.
Which brings us back to 2-year-olds, because as I understand it, 2-year-olds, James, figure out what works in the world by figuring out what is wrong until they start taking it personally. Now, at the age of self-consciousness, apparently around 7 or so, we start taking being wrong personally. Before it was like, oh, that wasn't right. Haha, I'm just going to pee my pants and have a great life still. But then you get to 7, and it's like, oh no, I was wrong with that assertion or that behavior. I must be a bad person.
I'm a flawed human being. Yes.
I'm a failure. Yeah, and the concept of failure kicks in, doesn't it, at a certain age, which isn't there before.
And then we perpetuate it in the academic world.
Yes.
You get an A, you get an F.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes a competition.
Never did me any harm.
You're the most right, you're the most wrong. And here it is in writing.
Stop. Well, there you go. That's nothing to do with mindful migration necessarily, but I'm sure we could draw a parallel. And I take from that you're not a big fan of these sorts of ideas, which are just travel companies trying to sell more tickets as a result of some pseudoscience.
It's funny. My father was in advertising. He was an advertising executive. And we used to talk about advertisements and stuff. And I talked about we usually talk about the ones that I thought were really funny. And he says, what was the product? And I said, I don't remember. He says, and that was a bad ad.
Yes.
It's like, but it was funny. He says, yes, it was funny, but it was also a bad ad. If you can't, you don't know what they're advertising. Anyway.
Didn't frighten you enough.
And I don't think it influences this attitude, because I actually had a fairly positive relationship with advertisement in terms of my conversations with my father about it, which were one of the few places that we actually kind of got along in conversation. But when things feel like they are created for the purpose of promoting a product, but then presented as if it's the truth to the world, that's what annoys me. It's not that it's an ad. It's not that someone has an idea. It's that you're putting together this idea that I came up with, I made up all by myself, and I'm putting it out to the world like it's the truth. This is real. This is like, so scientific studies means one scientist friend of mine, when we were drunk at the bar the other day, said this. And then that's quoted as scientists claim. Like, stop it. That's just, to me, that's lying to the world, and with the intention of benefiting yourself somehow. And I don't have a problem with benefiting yourself, but it's it's the old snake oil salesman.
There's an element of manipulation, is there not, or misrepresentation in there? Nobody likes that, do they? Except for the person doing it, perhaps. Right. We have got Antonio in. The man in the Mino is here. Bit of Tony time for you. Buon di Alegria. Thank you for your wine recommendation, Antonio, which you spoke about earlier. Morning greetings from a wet Mino. No one likes that first thing. Well, actually, ducks and plants do. Happy Monday and a great week ahead. Thanks, Antonio, for that. Pete's in as well with a message about CTT. CTT, I have to say, were very efficient in delivering my Qashqai parking ticket to me, which is now paid. 30 euros worse off. And a hell of a lot of people were involved in that, in the recovery of that 30 euros, I have to say. One of the more bonkers aspects. That was enough to give anyone a blue Monday. But I've taken it in my stride. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear, James. Even a modest familiarity, says the Squire, with the history of science offers many examples of matters that scientists thought they had resolved, only to discover that they needed to be reconsidered. Yes, indeed. And long may it continue, right?
That's what it's all about.
Oh, love, did that upset you? No. Okay, all right. Thank you for the coffee. Sorry, James, what was that?
I said that's what it's all about. The whole science thing. It's about that.
Yes,
As
process.
we gain more capacity to understand things better,
Yeah.
the old ideas are going to fall away to new ideas.
Let's
I
hope
mean,
so.
relativity it didn't exist in the 15th century, as far as I know. Maybe science didn't exist then. I don't know when the Renaissance broke, the church and science kind of separated, but at that point, so things change, ideas change. It's not that we have it right. I don't think science ever claims we have it right. I think the claim is this is the best understanding we have of it to date. I think that's probably the best description of science.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A process. And imagine for a moment that the times we live in and the things we're doing now might be as amusing and funny to those in the future as we find the past.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that incredible?
Or horrifying, for that matter.
Yes,
there are some things from the past around science, especially medicine, that are pretty horrifying.
Yep. Thank you for that, Squire. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Squire. I have a T-shirt that says, what do you call someone who looks forward to Mondays? Retired. Yes, absolutely. Merch. Well, someone's already merched that, haven't they? There. The Good Morning Portugal mugs are available, and I think I'll take a few with me to the event at the end of the month in Coimbra. Who's coming to Coimbra to the Real Ale Festival?
And science says if you buy just one mug, your happiness level will go up by 15%.
Not to mention you'll be sexier, more attractive, and possibly wealthier in the future by doing so.
Well, especially if you carry it around with you everywhere and tell people where to buy one.
Thank you for that, James. Completely unrehearsed, but I'm glad to see we're on the same wavelength there. You can tell you guys live in the north, dressed like you live in northern Scotland. Oh, bit of Algarvian bragging rights. Well, at least we can take a shower when we want to. I hear that people in the Algarve, James, have been banned from using so much water. Tourists down here in the Algarve are walking about with shorts and T-shirts. Disgusting.
Yeah, I saw a study recently that showed that people in the Algarve are water wasters. They use 40% more water than the average Portuguese.
Yeah, right. You Algarve water wasters. You see, coming on here, taking the mickey out of us. Me wearing 3 layers and James wearing 2 down there, etc. Although it's almost like a spectrum, isn't it? You know, the further north you are, the more layers you have to put on. Eddie 2 layers this morning. Silver Coast, a bit further north, 3 layers. And imagine Paul Richards is just sitting there in his string vest and underpants. Not an image many will thank me for creating in their minds. James is cracking me up right now. Good value. Apparently, 100% of this viewer is enjoying you. See, here's a statistic.
According to research.
According to
I read
research.
something once that said the best way to be able to say something completely made up that sounds valid is to put percentages and cite surveys or research.
Well,
just say those words in what you say, and people will believe that it's true. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they do. He's loving this. Have you read Steven Pinker's book, Rationality? What it is and why it matters? Well, it sounds like that's a good start. He has to actually define.
It's a good title, yeah.
It is, but it also depends what you mean by book
and rationality
and Steven Pinker.
Well,
hello to Leela. Good morning, Portugal. There are those who say this must be wrong, let me prove it, or this must be right, I'll prove it. Rather, let's not have a pre-opinion and just evaluate with no predetermined outcome. That sounds like a free way to live, doesn't it?
Let's see if we can come up with a different conclusion.
Yep.
Based on what we have available.
Another statistic that's just come in. Oh, no, it's not a statistic. It's just an assertion, isn't it? But I'm sure we can find a statistic to back it up if we could be bothered. They lie for money and politics. Who are these people?
Yeah, that they is just responsible for like everything wrong in the world. They, man.
How dare they? Advertising on social media is much more intrusive than old style advertising. Well, that's true, isn't it? That's why, you know, I've created GMP VIP. It's a private platform. Come over, join us where there are no adverts and very little censorship. There's a lot of sort of partisan curation by me, of course, because that's what happens. But, you know, you create a private platform for people who moan about Facebook and social media. Do they use it? Do they come over? not in quite the numbers you might imagine. They do use it, but not in quite the numbers you might imagine.
Well, keep in mind you're competing with probably the single largest social networking platform that's ever been created. So
Thank you.
There's
James.
a little ways to go. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it's a long game.
Yes, a very, very long game. It's kind of like Apple versus all the other computers. 3% of the market, and then when they get to 6%, that's a huge increase. But it's
That's
still
right.
a tiny piece of the market. Yeah.
And in uncommon hours, my grandchildren will punch the air saying, we've got that tiny little bit of Zuckerberg's market share, finally. Unfortunately, the flaw in my plan is that she also runs the CTT office. This is, I think, Pete and Antonio having a chat this morning. He sounds like he's working on a cunning plan there, Mr. Bleach. Bon dia todos from Bob. Great day after an excellent evening spent with a delightful Russian couple we met recently here in Portugal after working 25 years in Canada. Wow, reaching out across the national boundaries there. Good work, Bob. And yes, and don't bother doing research on those merch recommendation stats and the searches. What? Oh, okay, you've saved me a job today.
No, you don't need to do research on it because it's true.
That's right. We've already decided that, have we not?
You don't need to research it. Research has proven the truth of it. So just don't even bother.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm just reminded by John there that we have a lovely. He went out in Braga to Domo Gosto for a Fado evening, and they had a truly magical Portuguese evening there, which we'll share with you now. Then when we come back, James, we'll be talking with Vitor Costa, and he's a hard fella to predict. I'm not sure what he's going to come up with. When it comes to Blue Monday, he will not only have possibly a Portuguese perspective, but he will have the Vitor Costa perspective, which I always personally look forward to. And I'm aware that I've robbed you possibly of any Mindful Migration Monday insight. So we'll
leave it to the community to make the mindful connections to everything we talk about.
I hope you'll stay with us. I hope you'll stay with us for this next half hour. After a little bit of a Fado palate cleanser here from Braga at the weekend, thanks to João de Norte. Here we go. Enjoy.
Trago versos, trago sons de uma grande sinfonia tocada em todos os tons da tristeza e da alegria. Trago amarguras aos molhos, lucidez e desatino. Trago secos os meus olhos que choram de estelio.
Beautiful. Let's give her a lovely round of applause. Thank you, John, for sending us that. And we'll keep the applause going because Vitor Costa joins us now from Portugal, in the north of Portugal. Let's bring him onto the screen. There he is.
Hello. What's up, Blue Monday?
What was that, Vitor?
What's up, Blue Monday?
What's
hello?
a Blue Monday?
Is this thing working? Hi, Vitor. Good morning to you. Hola, bon dia. Alegria.
Hello, bon dia.
Segunda Azul. What does that mean here in Portugal, if anything?
I don't know. Never heard of it.
It's going well so far, isn't it? Did you take a look at it at all? Does it from the conversation we've been having this morning and maybe a little bit of research that you've been doing?
I actually just got here fairly recently, so I didn't catch a whole lot.
Okay, all right. Well, according to what's been proven to be a fairly bogus equation, the point being made here is this is the time of the year where people might be most unhappy. We've just spent all our money at Christmas. The weather's not great in the Northern Hemisphere generally. And a certain holiday company wants you to book a holiday to relieve yourself from the unhappiness.
Only people who don't have sunshine are unhappy and need to travel.
100% thereof, as discovered in a recent survey. Does that help at all, Vitor?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense and explains the name, but happiness comes from within.
Well, that's a mic drop moment. I think we can end the show there.
David,
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Goodbye, everybody. See you in a month.
Vitor. See you next month. Stick around for a little while longer. Yes, well said, sir.
I was actually going to talk about that in the mindful time, but we can do that another day.
It's still mindful, isn't it? All the time mindful time.
Yes.
If you're lucky. And certainly Vitor dragged us into it just then. Before we come back to that, how are things going on in the north? How are you, Vitor? And did you have a good Christmas?
Doing good, doing good. Yes, we did. Always time with family is always nice. Took some time off. Been working a bit hard for a few years, and it's like, hey, vacations are nice, actually. But yeah, things are going well, and we're actually looking to start our own show as well. Trying to see what kind of equipment to get and all of that good stuff, so that we can start, having a weekly show. Maybe talk a little bit about real estate, but also about how things are going, and see if we can start also helping people in Norway with the things we've been learning. So pretty excited for this year.
I thought you just said people in Norway. Did you just say people in our way, possibly there? Just for the sake of clarification. Unless there's
not
suddenly...
sure, actually.
I might have shared with everybody that there's suddenly an influx of interest from people in Norway. I know they've loved the Algarve for years. I met some Norwegians in December, but you haven't suddenly hit upon a Norwegian niche, as it were.
No, I did have a Norwegian client once. I think I've heard about other people from Norway since. But so far, I mean, things that were kind of still in December. Now in January, there's more interest in coming here into Portugal. So, but from Norway, perhaps, not sure.
Okay, all right. Well,
I mostly deal with Americans.
Somebody from Denmark might not like to live in the north of Portugal, but a Norwegian would.
Oh my goodness!
That was a.
Dun, dun, dun,
I didn't have
dun,
that whole conversation
dun,
about
dun,
Norwegian
dun.
to do that, by the way, because that would make it even worse, wouldn't it? I think I've upset Smokey this morning. It's interesting how low an opinion you have of my thoughts. Well, that's just anecdotal. I want to see the research on that to prove that I have a low opinion of your thoughts there. I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. I would say that we do have a slightly different worldview, Smokey, but let's keep talking. That's the most important.
Well, and sarcasm and humor can be very difficult to understand. I can read that as he's just being sarcastic and having fun, or I can be that his feelings are hurt, and I don't know. I
don't like to think of hurting his feelings. I do like to think
certainly not my intention. We were just, as far as I know, we were just having fun with what was coming in front of us from everybody.
Someone else's feelings who we might have heard this morning, saying that he's sitting there in his string vest and underpants, is Paul, who says, "Can we see more of Louisa? She is dressed nicely, unlike you two, who look like you are dressed for a dole queue." Harsh.
If I only knew what a dole was, then I might might be insulted.
The insult. Can you make a guess what that might mean? Sorry, Vitor.
The only dole I'm familiar with is a pineapple company. So
it's not. We're not queuing up for pineapples.
No.
That's not the insult here. Or to see the man from Del Monte. Okay, we'll come back to the dole queue. I'll let a few other people guess on that. The photo artist that you just saw was Ana Ferreira Moura. I didn't know. Moura. Ana Ferreira Moura. Didn't know till later.
I'm going to keep doing that. Every time you come with that OU and say ooh, I'm going to just say oh. Just so you know.
We can make a song. Every time
consistent.
You say oh. Every time.
That's right. I love the consistent rules in the language, and that's one of them. OU pronounced oh.
But by the way, Carl, beautiful R you did in the Moura.
Sorry, say that again.
Beautiful R, Moura.
Moura, okay, and Ferreira.
Yes.
That was quite good.
Moura. You rolled the R, Moura.
The R is probably one of the trickiest sounds for expats coming here into Portugal.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you. Didn't know till later that she's apparently a big name in New Fado. Okay, and it was a privilege to see her in such a nice, private, intimate setting. A plus was that her parents were there as a surprise to her as well. I saw another video of her. She knows how to command a room as well. She's amazing in the other video you sent to me, Joel. What are we going to add there, James?
Oh, this is the way my head works. I heard New Fado. I was going to ask if that was a city in Portugal, but
New Fado. I was not being sarcastic. You have been critical of most of my comments. That's the study I conducted.
okay.
Awkward. Okay.
Can we go to the elephant in the room to do that segment again?
No, it's live because nothing we can do about that. So, Vitor, I'll reflect on that and see what we can do about that. Vitor, you were talking about your new possible show. Tell us more about that then. You're going to be live streaming yourself, are you, on a weekly basis?
Yes.
That'll be the Portugal Door show. Tell us more.
Yes. It will be me and Maria. It will be... we have a few kind of different things we want to make. At least once a month, to do sort of a monthly market update or have a section dedicated to the market update. And then we'll also be talking about, things that we learn about life, about business, and also, of course, about Portugal. So maybe we're going to do different shows. It's still not set in stone. Maybe we're going to be making different shows. Maybe we're going to, have a combination of several things in one. But a few months ago, we did a live on Facebook with Maria. And apparently people really, really liked it because she was holding my reins and not letting me veer off. So yeah. It might be a good recipe. We'll see how it goes.
I'm sure it will be. Will she be doing some of her Portuguese language tuition in there as well?
Perhaps, why not? I mean, I think it's going to be more of a natural, free-flowing conversation. Mm-hmm. Whatever feels like relevant for us to talk about. Of course, it will almost always be centered around what we do, dealing with expats and foreigners and how life in Portugal is and all of these things, and always with the topic around real estate. But ultimately it's like, it's share our experiences and any useful information we might have with people. And yeah, I mean, I love learning languages. Maria loves teaching languages. People who watch us will be trying to learn a certain language at least. So that makes sense. Yeah, I think it will be on YouTube. We'll probably restream it to Facebook and whatever. We also have to take care of social medias. We plan on, remaking our website this week because it's, I think it's due for a change. And we're going to do things a little bit differently.
Excellent. Can you tell us more about that? I think it's been lovely actually to see your company develop over the last couple of years. I think it's fair to say you had a good 2023, as well as the new show. What else have you got planned for 2024? And how do you see things emerging and changing and evolving for foreigners coming to Portugal in this next year?
Right. So I think the NHR topic has been discussed a lot already. But again, there will always be people wanting to come here, people wanting to leave. Now, it will also depend on the elections that we're going to have, whether or not we're going to keep letting everybody flood in or if we're going to have more controlled migration, because that's one weird thing that I find that, expats, particularly coming from America and other first world nations, it's like they're being out. How do I say this? They're made to be kind of like the villain, some kind of evil vibe by certain people. Yes. And it's becoming harder and harder for them. And then cut the NHR and then increase the requirements. And then, Seth is gone and I don't even remember what replaced it and all of these things. In the meantime, there are many other countries where if a person from there comes here into Portugal, for whatever reason, even in a tourist visa, they can say, hey, I want to live here now. Okay, very good. Do you have any income? No, I don't. Very well. Then we'll provide housing and subsidies for you. You're a citizen now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've met a person the other day that, I think it was New Year's. They were there celebrating and whatever. And this guy was on one of those electrical scooters with his son. He was underage, and they called him over, to celebrate. They were setting off fireworks, and they were having some conversation. And then basically that man's son was in school, and he said, hey, in 3 years you can become a citizen, and then I can do family reunification to become a citizen as well. That being said, we're going to keep focusing on the core of what we do, which is helping people, right? Be it Portuguese people who want to sell their properties, or even expats who want to sell their properties, or people who want to buy, or people who want to rent. We're working very hard to raise the standards of what a real estate agent is, and thus here in Portugal. Because if you, for example, if you come here, if you go on the Idealista and you sort all of the properties, like the whole Viana do Castelo district, sorted from most expensive to least, and see how many have decent pictures, decent descriptions, and make sense. Like last time I checked, there's one property for 5.5 million. It just has like 9 pictures of the outside, and half of them aren't even of the property itself. It's like, a mountain somewhere or a river. Then you have another one for 4 million with okay pictures. Then you have another one for 4 million, which is actually the first property, but with different pictures and in a different agency. And so it's disheartening. Like that's the reason why, on average, even like small T2 apartments or whatever usually stay on the market for like 11 months, because it's like everybody's just doing the bare minimum to see if they can get the commission, and then move on. I think slowly but surely we'll be getting there, but at this moment it feels like many times the relationship between the real estate agent and the property owner, it's like each one trying to take advantage of the other. Like the owner only wants open listings because they don't trust the agent, and with good reason. Like on average, it's what you see. On the other hand, most agents also take the non-exclusive because they also don't trust the agent. They don't trust the owner, and so they put open listings. They don't share the location. They do the bare minimum effort with the pictures, with the description and everything. Hey, if I find a buyer, I get the commission. If I don't find a buyer, whatever. It's an open listing. So, I'm just reading Antonio's comment there.
Okay, we will come back to that, but this it's interesting. Smokey's. By the way, Smokey, you asked if I wanted you to leave. Definitely not. No, you're very welcome here. Also, this show's gone very serious and focused, and it's going great right now. Well, thank you for that feedback. And it has. I mean, these are some serious issues here that you're talking about, aren't you? We are a little bit further down the road from when we first began talking, together on the Good Morning Portugal show.
Yes.
The immigration issue is a big one. And when you said we've got an election coming up and that might change things, I thought you were talking about the American election, because that might trigger a whole influx of American interest.
I forgot about that kind of worms.
Yes, there is that as well. So we are going into what could be a very serious and turbulent year. And I think it's important for us to sort of manage the balancing of that, to provide a positive and happy, safe place to be for people in the morning, whilst not ignoring these issues. As you said, Antonio has a view as well. Portugal will certainly tighten immigration laws. We don't need any freeloaders, and that is what is in cause, of course, not from any passive income earners or self-employed, and additionally nomads. Portugal needs hard workers, just like all these retired people watching this morning.
Yeah.
My little joke. So yes, that is an interesting and ongoing situation, isn't it? And I was delighted. One of the most popular videos that we've published just recently was entitled. It was a bit clickbaity. It was about the foreigners who were upsetting Chega. And I spoke to an Italian fella in Albufeira, where a lot of people are foreigners in Albufeira. It's quite exceptional. I don't think it can necessarily be scaled up and seen as a model of life generally in Portugal. But there's a lot of foreigners in newcomers in Albufeira. So many so that the Paulo is thinking of political representation there, which within a few days of him saying so and creating a massive Facebook group has attracted the ire of Chega, who are coming, on this very sort of taking a very literal and hardline view on inward immigration. For me, I think it's important to have these conversations and to have some solutions to what's going on. And I think Paulo Fornassi's group and his aspirations are useful in the south of Portugal. What do you think, Vitor? How do we get the conversation going so that these difficult issues aren't just sort of abstracted ideas that are just stirring people up online, for example, and can actually be constructively managed in some way? Because I don't see that happening yet. I don't see constructive management. I see this idea of freeloaders, and there are good expats and there are bad ones and this sort of thing. How can we actually do something constructive with that?
Well, in my opinion, that old maxim that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times.
Yes.
I think we're on that last stage, right? And from what I've been seeing, and I've been online for a while. Like my full-time job a few years ago was arguing online on Facebook, right? Usually about American politics for some reason. I know more about American politics back then than I ever knew about Portuguese politics, but I digress. But what I've been seeing more and more is that there's more and more polarization. It's like whatever side you're on, quote unquote, it's like it's becoming almost impossible to talk to each other because it's like we have different languages.
Yeah.
And I have many friends in all sides of the political spectrum or whatever. I don't make politics my identity. It's like, hey, if this goes for someone, then okay. Is this bad for someone? Then I don't really agree with that. Basic principles like don't harm other people, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, what I feel like will happen is that because of that polarization, it's going to be a very fast pendulum swinging. Because it's like a certain side will be doing crazier and crazier things in the perspective of the other. It's going to create even more tension. Then people are going to go all in with that. Hey, you know what? We're tired of this. Let's try the other thing. It's going to go in the other direction. And then maybe in a few years or a few decades, things will start balancing out. And people will be like, hey, you know what? Maybe each side has some point to what they're saying. But social media, and in particular, news outlets. And when I say news outlets, I'm not just talking about the mainstream media, but now anybody can create a news blog article page. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, if you make inflammatory content, you get more clicks. You get more clicks, you get more money. So people just take whatever is going on. They create articles about it that make people feel rage, make people, go crazy and comment and argue and blah, blah, blah. And then that's going to polarize people, because some people who maybe don't have, their values or ethics formed are going to see and like, hey, these people are saying this thing is bad. And at first glance, it seems it's bad. So I'm going to align with these people. And then I'm going to start attacking them. And then that becomes part of their identity because they want to be the good guys. They don't have a purpose in life. They want to be the good guys. I've been young as well. I know what that feels like. Yes. And they're going to side with the side that feels like they're flying the banner of good guys the most. And until something happens, that's where they will stay. Like, I think the only way to actually start talking to someone, particularly if they're on the other side and you want to actually have an argument or a discussion about it, you really would have to start very, very slowly. Like, you can't just say, hey, that's wrong. It's like, oh, wow, that's very interesting. Hey, what if this happened? Do you think, what do you think would happen if this? And, some people really can't have that conversation, and that's okay. But I'm just going to conclude with this. Even yesterday, a guy, this Nigerian kid who wants to be an entrepreneur, sometimes asks me for advice, and he says, hey, so I've been reading on the news that the economy is going this and that and blah, blah, blah. What can we do? And it's like, hey, man, you create your own economy. Like, there will always be people with problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can help people find solutions for those problems, I mean, you'll never have to worry about it. If you just go by the news and, oh, the economy is bad, so I'm just going to suffer and it's going to be terrible, then of course that's what's going to happen. But I believe that regardless of what's going on in the world, if everyone keeps working, if everyone, knows what their purpose is, focuses on helping people, I think we would all be a lot better off.
Well said. Thank you very much for that. Now, James has been sitting there with a very erudite expression on his face. So let's see what mindful migration parallels or even insights about what you've just said, Vitor, are there for James this morning. Would you like to add anything to that, James?
For a moment, I considered just staying frozen. So it's like I had a frozen, that's all I've been gone the whole time, but no. Truth is, because of my sense of or not my sense, my understanding, my belief that we have no control over anything but ourselves, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. I say that over and over again. I tend not to get too involved with political conversation and economic conversation. It's all too big. I can't do anything about that. And I think kind of what Vitor was saying, if I heard it correctly, was we need to be responsible for ourselves and ourselves within whatever's going on. So how do I choose to conduct myself given all that stuff? So I'm not really interested in the political conversation, especially as it's constructed mostly now, which is very polarized.
Yeah.
If I hear, oh, this person had this idea about this that sounds pretty good to me, I'm more inclined to listen to that than they said, that infamous they, the bad guy versus the good guy and the other way around. So yeah, I try to live my life the best I can, to have the best possible influence I can have, and let go of the rest because I have no control over it.
Yeah, I think when Blue Monday was first conceived, they didn't have the polarizing and depressing effect of the news factored into their equation, which they could do now. That could be added in as another influence, because it's quite big for people, isn't it, to be drawn to wanting to know what's going on the periphery using news sources and social media. So I know it's an excuse I use. I need to know what's going on. I find out what's going on, and it's not always very fruitful or positive or fulfilling. To having found out what's going on, it's quite disabling. And
yeah, because then what can I do about it? Usually the answer is nothing.
Yes,
it's like, oh, how disheartening is that?
Yeah,
it sucks, and I can't do anything about it. Oh man. Okay,
and you might have been better off not looking. We've got some great comments to add to this, and I think we can safely say it's not a Blue Monday here on the Good Morning Portugal show. It's more of a Red Monday. There's been definitely an inflamed atmosphere, possibly in a good way here. So people.
Well, if we're talking about color, it's gray where I am. It's not blue. It's a gray Monday here.
Depends what you mean by grey. Right, okay. No, let's not get into that.
Color.
With an E or with
I'm
an
talking
A?
about color gray. Yeah.
With an E or an A.
Cinzento. Cinzento. Sim.
Can we just agree on how to spell grey? Okay.
Yes.
There's that's why apparently for the Portuguese you need to disagree with both sides, Vitor. Contrarianism is the new centrism. Portuguese are the great contrarian. Watch his videos as well. We've got some great video makers in our community, including the Portuguese, and soon, of course, you've already made some great videos that have been very popular around the world. But we're looking out for your new channel or your new show, Vitor, and Pam would like to know, and I think others would like to know the link for that. Hopefully, common sense will never go out of style in Portugal. Yes, I think we can credit the Portuguese culture with having a good dose of common sense, as it seems to have in a few countries, says Antonio, where Portuguese don't tolerate silliness. That's great.
I'm in trouble.
Not that kind of silliness.
Oh, okay.
Vitor, who is the they you're talking about? And this may have been a long time ago, so it might be difficult to capture that. But we all do this from time to time. You're right to call it out when you see it.
For sure.
Yep. I've done my fair share of 60-hour work weeks, says the Squire. We have some amazing workers from Brazil, East Timor, and lots of the former colonies. But once they are working, they can earn far higher wages in the rest of the Schengen area. That seems to be a phenomenon that I wasn't aware of, but I think that's true, that people use Portugal as a first step in Schengen to go elsewhere. I think somebody was saying that about some Ukrainian settlers in Portugal. As soon as they got to Portugal, they just went to London or somewhere else where they had relatives, where they could earn more money thereafter. Anecdotal, no scientific proof of that. But Vitor, do you stand with Yemen? Asking for a friend. That's Portuguese being his contrarian self there. You don't have to answer that. I find listening and then checking in if someone would like my point of view helps prevent me from wasting my time. That's interesting, but can also be almost inflammatory, can't it? Would you like
open to other ideas? No.
Yes,
okay, then I'll go. Thank you.
Do you think I'm the sort of person who isn't open to other ideas? Tell me about your ideas. I wish you hadn't. Your ideas suck. Work is good, but don't whittle it all away, as there is more to life than just a grindstone. Well said, Squire, and thank you for that definition of erudite there. Erudite in its own way. Thank you, Portuguese. 100%. The current political discourse is very destructive, but it can change very quickly. Reality has a way of eventually forcing you to check your assumptions. It would appear so, wouldn't it? Eventually, in a sense, it just happens. Thank you, Smokey. Antonio, Portuguese common sense is something I really love. If something, a rule, etc., is just silly, people seem to simply ignore it or dismiss it for what it is. Silly, which is a hard path to navigate as a foreigner, I have to say, when you haven't learned that nuance. Remember this, and I will never tire of repeating, you will not change Portugal, and if you're lucky enough, Portugal will change you. Well said. And 100% to your comment there, João. Gentlemen, we've wound our way towards 10 o'clock in a way that I hadn't imagined this morning. I would say we can officially declare this a Blue Monday free zone here on the Good Morning Portugal. Thank you for everybody's comments. I think I'll come to a final smattering of erudition from you both, if I may. And this is a chance for you, James, to squeeze in anything I denied you earlier on. Vitor first, though. Vitor first. Can people have a link to your new YouTube show? And what else have you got for us as a parting shot, Vitor?
They can when we have it. And just to wrap up the whole thing about the political conversations, if somebody is open to hear a different point of view, by all means, have a discussion, because the biggest challenge is, of course, we all have our own opinions. And let's say if I was a news reporter, right, I would hear, each political party, I would hear things I agree with and that I disagree with, and I would naturally, even if inadvertently, maybe portray things in a light that favors or disfavors each side, right? Because, hey, if I don't agree with that, that's normal. So always take it with a grain of salt and always question your own beliefs. If the person is not, does not want to hear different opinions, that's okay. Don't talk about it. Be friends, hang out, or whatever. If it becomes too toxic, then it's okay also to lower contact a little bit. Like, life is short, it's to be lived. Happiness comes from within, like I said when I started. So do what makes you feel good, do what makes you help other people, because each moment you spend in turmoil and arguing and feeling red, it's a moment that you're wasting your potential. That's how I see it.
Wow. Thank you very much for that, Vitor. And it reminds me actually of a quote that I popped up on my Facebook timeline from Swami Vivekananda, the famous Hindu monk and philosopher, who said, if you can stretch out a helping hand, do so, as I think you suggested there, Vitor. If you cannot, fold your hands, bless your brothers, and let them go their own way in a prayer-like gesture. So you and that wise Hindu sage on the same page there. Thanks for a great show, says Smoky Treats. And over to you, James, to end in a similar way to the Madeiran fireworks. So if you could be the equivalent, the philosophical equivalent of the Madeiran fireworks, that would be awesome.
And put my 20 minutes into the next 5 seconds.
Yes, please.
All right. For me, bottom line on this, where I see most of the challenges reside is in our ego. It's in our need to defend our existence, which is what ego is. It's who we are. So if it's challenged, we're going to try to defend it, or we're going to attack the other person, and we need to get that under control if we're going to have any positive conversation, any useful conversation. So in a very simple way, I would advise really take a look at managing your ego anytime you're trying to have an intelligent, healthy conversation. Maybe anytime ever, but
yes,
especially there.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
That's right.
Oh, Vitor. Very good. Gentlemen, how great. Vitor, could you say that thing again about strong times, weak times, strong men? It says, because I think you missed a bit from that, but can you give us that thing again?
Right. So hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and the cycle repeats.
I think what's in the original, I think there's something about great women make strong cheese as well, but that's for some reason has been left out of the.
I don't like cheese.
Okay, all right. So let's leave it on a slightly controversial note of cheese hater.
Just love stirring it up, don't you, Carl?
Hater, you cheese hater.
Water waster, cheese hater. They said you are.
Gentlemen, you've been amazing. Nice big round of applause. I'm going to let you two go, and I'm going to stay with a lovely bit of a musical interlude from Cheryl Bliss and show some of the wonderful photographs that we've got here on the GMP VIP. So, James, thank you. Vitor, Costa, love you both. Take care, and bye for now. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
There they go. There they go. Fabulous. So that's those two gents, and I'm going to start the music, and then I'm going to go to GMP VIP with those lovely photographs of Portugal R. That the Gumpers send in, and I post them up there. So we'll have a little bit of a slideshow, and we'll hear some music from Cheryl Bliss, which is just out. This is January Moon.
Under a cool moon in January morn, I fell from grace, you turned and left too soon. Now you are gone, and I am left alone under a January moon. If I could stop the words that came from me, you spoke your mind, I didn't stop to think. I came on strong, you fell beneath my feet under a January moon. Can you believe, boy, I'm falling without you under January. Under a cool January moon, I'm walking home, there's nothing left to do. I fumble for keys, then step into my room. Under January
Bom dia, Portugal! In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.